was trying really hard to act normal after hearing the explanation, but internally, oh boy, I was hot. Not a loud hot, not a dramatic hot, the colder kind, the kind where something in you goes very still because you just realize the level of disrespect was not accidental. We had asked about swapping shifts because someone was leaving, and like always, there were personal reasons involved, real life involved, people trying to make a hard situation work the best way that they could. The answer from management was no, just no. No flexibility, no meaningful conversation, no sense that people who had been carrying this team for years might deserve a little consideration. And then later, we found out the real reason. Hey y'all, welcome back to Between a Hot Mess and a Therapist, your not so typical self-help podcast for high responsibility helpers who are tired of pretending they are fine. I'm your host, Shauna Lovin, a seasoned therapist, Texas LPC supervisor, 3-5 emotional projector, and a total tree-hugging auntie rebel who believes healing can be natural, of course, with compassion and a little cussing. If you're watching on YouTube, listening in your car, hiding in the bathroom at work, or staring at your ceiling at 2 a.m., baby, I already know what kind of week you're having. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive in. It wasn't about fairness. It wasn't about what made sense for people who had already been there doing the work, carrying the load. It was because the earlier shift would be easier to fill than a later one. And baby, that landed exactly how you think it landed. A fucking slap in the face, like a little corporate shrug. Like, we know who's been here. We know who carries this. We know who stays through all the turnover and all the exhausting parts and all the unusual nonsense. And we are still going to make the decision based upon what is most convenient for us, not what honors the people already holding the shit together. That kind of moment changes the temperature of your life, your work, and everything about you. Because now it's not about just a schedule. It's about the story underneath the schedule. Who matters here? Who gets protected? Who gets prioritized? Who gets treated like a person with a history? And who gets treated like a staffing puzzle? And when the message underneath is, well, inconvenience, the loyal people who make things harder on themselves, people feel that shit. Deep in the body, deep in the moral compass, deep in whatever little patch of trust was still trying to stay alive. It is in there. I know for me, at least one other team member, it felt like a straight up fuck you. Not because we're delighted or that we're delicate people. Not because we expected to get our way every time, but because when you've been somewhere for years, 4 years, 5 years, long enough to know the rhythm, long enough to know the cost, long enough to have proven yourself over and over, you can tell the difference between a hard decision and a dismissive one. You can tell when leadership is making a call they hate to make and when they're revealing exactly where you rank once the optics are stripped off. That's what stings. Not just the answer, but the actual meaning behind all of that. And this is where people start gaslighting themselves. They say maybe, I'm taking it too personal. Maybe it's just logistics. Maybe management is under pressure too. Maybe there's more going on behind the scenes. Sure, maybe. I'm grown. Okay. I know leadership decisions are not always simple, but there is a difference between complexity and competent. There's a difference between this is hard and you'll take what we give you because we assume you always will. High responsibility people can smell the difference 5,000 miles away, even when they're trying to talk themselves out of it, especially when it's not the first time or the first thing that happens. Let's be honest. In 5 years, if a team has had that much turnover, at some point, you have to stop pretending it's just the work. Yes, the work may be exhausting. Yes, the field may be hard. Yes, the job itself may ask a lot. But chronic turnover is information. It tells a story. And if you ain't listening, you're going to miss the story. And there's a lot of the time that story is not just this is a demanding role. Sometimes that story is poor leadership, weak management, inconsistency, a lack of emotional intelligence, bad instincts just around people, and the leadership style that drains trust faster than the job drains the energy. That fucking matters, because people don't just leave jobs. They leave an atmosphere. They leave managers who make them feel watched, dismissed, misread, or chronically unsupported. They leave places where loyalty gets used up instead of respected. They leave teams where people doing the most adapting are always the ones expected to adapt just a little bit more. They leave when they realize being dependable is simply made them easier to take for granted. And I think that what was sitting underneath my reaction too, not just that this one incident, but it was an accumulation of incidents. That tired feeling of, here we go again. This is a familiar suspicion. The way, even when my manager's trying to be nice, some parts of me are not fully trusting that shit. I'm still scanning. I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm still wondering if being picked at or singled out or managed differently is just the way things are. Now listen, I know that not every feeling is a fact. We got feelings and emotions always to every situation. And I know that when trust has been torn super thin, your nervous system can get real alert real quick. You start reading the tone, timing, side comments, and the shift in the energy. Sometimes because you're off, but sometimes your body has learned that dismissal rarely arrives with a neon sign attached to it. It arrives with the little things. It arrives with the inconsistency. It arrives with that strange look. It arrives with being left out. A rule applied one way to you and another way to somebody else. Kindness that feels performative because it's just sitting at the top of the history of your body that didn't forget. That kind of workplace suspicion is fucking exhausting, because now you are not just doing the job, you're doing the emotional math of the job as well. You're tracking fairness. You're reading power. You're trying to decide whether being sensitive or accurately clocking the dynamic. You're telling yourself to stay professional while some deeper part of you is quietly collecting evidence. That will wear a person out in a way that a job description never mentions. And when another team member starts planning their exit, it doesn't exactly calm the nervous system. It confirms the instability. It confirms the environment is not settled. and it's still not trustworthy, and it's still requiring everybody left behind to absorb the impact. So now that you're still there, you're still looking for a new job, and you're still trying to function while the team shape keeps changing. And all while the leadership is making decisions that seem to state convenience matters more than continuity. That breeds a resentment so fast that I don't know what would happen. Not always an explosive resentment. Sometimes there's this flatter than that. It's just there. It's more this dead eye thing. More, I see what this is. More, the kind of internal withdrawal that happens when your effort is no longer feels like it lives in a reciprocal relationship. You still do your work and you show up and you do the job, but something in you stops extending benefits of the doubt so that it's freeing. Something in you stops believing the language at face value. There's something in you that starts emotionally packing boxes long before the resume updates are done. And I need to say this because a lot of helpers and professionals make themselves wrong the minute they start feeling this shift. Noticing the bad leadership does not make you negative. Feeling the insult by a dismissive decision does not make you difficult. Becoming suspicious after repeated inconsistency does not automatically mean that you are projecting. Sometimes your body is simply reacting to the cumulative impact of being managed in ways that does not feel safe, fair, or even respectful. That is not drama. That is pattern recognition. The nervous system piece here matters because trust at work is not some fluffy extra thing that happens. It changes how your body moves through the day. When trust is low, everything costs so much more. Conversations cost more. Requests cost more. The schedule changes cost more. Feedback costs more. Even small interactions can feel loaded because your body has already learned that not to assume goodwill. That means that you are burning energy before anything major even happens. You're bracing, anticipating, or you're interpreting. You're staying a little bit ready. And if you do that long enough, even a manager trying to be nice feels suspicious because your system no longer reads the environment as neutral. That does not mean that you're broken. It means your body has adjusted to a relational instability at work. That's why leadership matters so much more than what people actually think. A good manager doesn't just do like direct tasks. They regulate the emotional climate of your job, the people, the team. They create coherence. They make decisions people can understand, even if they don't like them. They communicate in ways that preserve dignity. They build enough trust that one hard call doesn't crack the whole foundation of things. Weak leadership does the opposite of all that. It creates confusion, favoritism, secrecy, a weird power, and a whole lot of low-grade resentment everybody is expected to swallow and keep clocking in, though. And after a while, the body says no to whatever language it can. Maybe that looks like irritability. Maybe it looks like dread before the shift. Maybe it looks like fantasizing about quitting every time one more ridiculous thing happens. And maybe it looks like an emotional distance. Maybe it looks like updating your resume in little anger bursts. Maybe it looks like not trusting kindness because your body is tired of being asked to reset after every disappointment. That's not a personality flaw. That's what happens when your workplace stops feeling psychologically clean or safe. I keep coming back to that shift decision because it was small enough for management to probably think it was no big deal and big enough for them to feel exactly what it revealed. That's often how trust gets lost, honestly. Not in one giant blow up, in a series of choices that communicate over and over. We will ask more from the people who stay than from the system that keeps failing them. People notice that shit. And once people notice, leadership starts losing credibility, even though they're technically being polite. Because politeness in the same thing is not the same thing as respect. A nice tone does not fix the pattern of disregard. A friendly comment does not undo what the body has already learned. So here's the reframe I want to offer today. If you find yourself feeling suspicious, angry, checked out, hyper-aware in a workplace with consistent turnover, shaky leadership, do not rush to make a character issue for you. Before you call yourself sensitive, ask whether your body has been responding to a trust problem all along. Before you shame yourself for wanting out, ask whether your nervous system is tired of trying to normalize disrespect. Before you make it only about your resilience, consider whether the environment keeps asking you to adapt without earning your trust in return. That changes the whole conversation, because maybe the real issue is not that you need to be more understanding. Maybe the real issue is that you have understood plenty. You've adapted plenty, you've stayed plenty, and you've tolerated plenty. And now your body is done confusing endurance with loyalty. There is a difference. And if you're not in the place right now and you're still showing up quietly and looking for an exit, still do your job while your inner world is getting clearer and less negotiable. And I want to leave this for you. Pay attention to the moment your respect changed, not the moment you got annoyed, the moment you knew whether the leadership was off in some deeper way. The moment your body stopped relaxing around them. The moment the words and the patterns stopped matching. The moment you realize the turnover might not be about the work at all. That moment matters. Because once respect leaves the room and says, peace out, no amount of niceness can fully fake safety. And sweetheart, your nervous system knows the difference, and you have to be safe in your body. All right, my loves, that's another episode in the books, and I'm out. Now, I need you to go drink some water, touch some grass, get a sip of sunlight, take a pause, and stop acting like your nervous system is optional. And yes, you are basically a houseplant with complicated emotions. If you needed this today, tell me about it, tell me what landed, hit follow, and send this to the I'm fine friend who is absolutely not fine, and you know who I'm talking about. And if you want to work with me, everything you need is linked in the show notes, because Auntie doesn't do energy sucking DMs. Okay, love you. Bye.